first thing that you see. Just up the road, a pale blue water tower. I love Jenny painted in bright green. Yeah, that's my uncle there by the courthouse. He'll be lowering the flag, the sun goes down. And this is my turn.
Good evening. Oh, come on, a Georgia boy needs to hear from Kentucky tonight. Good evening. There we go. How many, let's talk about, how many are happy to be here tonight? There we go. We are here for a great purpose tonight. We're here to support Andy Barr. Andy Barr is a friend to veterans, he's a friend to our country, and he's going to continue to be a friend to Kentucky and the nation because of what he stands for and what he believes. And I want to thank you for being here tonight. I am Doug Collins. I'm a congressman from the 9th District of Georgia. I happen to be the House Republican Vice Chair, but more importantly, I serve as a Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Air Force Reserve. There's nothing more important than the freedoms we celebrate, and one of those freedoms is the freedom to come together, to have our time and our say in politics, but also to have our time in freedom of religion and speech. And if you would you join me now or stand to your feet and join me in prayer as we get started. Eternal God, we thank you for this opportunity. For God, it is an opportunity to live, to share, to experience the freedoms that you give. When we look around, we see the gift of life. We see the hope that we have. And we're thankful for a nation in which we can express ourselves and express the love that you give to us. Father, the freedom expressed in this room also, we understand, comes with a price. It comes with a price of sacrifice and love and devotion, all of which you have shown to us. I pray tonight that we would just uplift you, that we would uplift each other, and we would find grace and mercy in knowing the fact that we can depend upon you. Be with Andy as he continues. Be with all the veterans that are here and their families. As we come before you tonight, we just ask for your guidance, your wisdom, and your grace. For it is in your precious name we pray. Amen. 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 Please be seated. One thing I do ask is if you have cell phones, please place them in the off or silent position. For some of you thought, George, I could actually speak in radio. I'm going to speak radio tonight. We're going to have a off position. We're here to have a good time tonight. We're here to also to understand what people who come together to support veterans for Andy Barr is going to be like. Before we get started, though, there's one other thing. I am Baptist, not Catholic, but I'm going to ask you to stand up again. This is participatory government because we're going to ask now that Sergeant J.B. Reynolds, a United States Marine Corps veteran, take the stage and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ladies and gentlemen, a prominent general once told me, Sergeant Reynolds, that is your flag. Take it everywhere you go, fly it high for the world to see. Because you see, it tells people who you are, where you came from, and what you're prepared to do in defense of your country and in defense of your way of life. There are 50 individual white stars. They represent 50 individual states, each having their own rules, their own laws, and their own regulations. They are evenly sized and evenly spaced, showing that one is no more important than the other. Yet they lay aloft a blue field, denoting their loyalty to the one union, which is incidentally the name of that area of the flag. There are 13 stripes. They represent the 13 original colonies that had the intestinal fortitude to stand up to what was then the most powerful nation on the face of the earth and say no more. No more tyranny, no more oppression. By the grace of God Almighty, we're going to stand up and govern ourselves. And I think we've done a pretty good job. What say you? 6 of those stripes are white. They represent the purity and the righteousness on which this nation was founded. The other 7, the red. They represent the valor, because they're the beginning and the end. The valor and the blood lost, past, present, and future, in defense of our country and in defense of our way of life. Ladies and gentlemen, I would be honored if you would join me as I pledge my allegiance to this oath of this representation and this symbol of our living nation. Present oath! I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. You may be seated. Now, they told me I could talk for just a second. I'm going to hold him off here. They made a mistake giving me this microphone. For those of you who know me, it's going back with a fight. A couple of the titles that I hold are near and dear to me. I work very hard with Veterans Affairs. I sit at the semi-helm of 2 of the largest veterans support organizations in the state. We're bipartisan, and I've tried to stay out of politics. But I will not, under any circumstances, let somebody use my Marine Corps against this man. I have watched him work too hard for too many years for the people of the Commonwealth and for the veterans of the Commonwealth of the 6th District. Not on my watch. I'm also the father of an Eagle Scout. I know there's several Scouters here in this room. But I believe one of the proudest titles that I hold is I am the son, the very proud son, of a retired United States Navy World War II veteran. And he's not going to let his Navy be used against him either. My father reminds me that the Marine Corps is a department of the Navy, and I remind him we're the men's department. I do it with a salute, though, because I don't like doing push-ups. Here we go. We cut up and we joke with each other about our branches of service, and we tease with each other, and I notice the Navy seems to take it a little harder nose. All kidding aside, at the end of the day, we're all on one team, we're all in one fight, and we all serve under the same flag. And I may not supposed to be doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I saw a report in the New York Times that said that there were veterans organizations who were upset because he compared his service to hers, to his opponents. He didn't start that, I did. I compared his service to mine. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Guess what? So did he. And the comment that I made was his service was no less important than the service that I provided. It was just in a different genre. It was no less important. But you see how they turned that around. It got turned around. They said that veterans organizations were upset and demanded an apology. Yeah? Okay. I'm sorry your head's in the sand. You come over and knock on my door, I'll tell you I'm sorry your head's in the sand. Because if you're all these veterans organizations, where are they? They're not out here on the street watching it happen. They're not out here on the street where the rubber meets the road, watching what he's doing. At Veterans Coalition meeting, all across the country, other congressmen are starting to do what he started doing right here. Amen? It's happening. It's making a difference, not just here, but across this country. I'm not going to stand by. Not on my watch. You got to get up, you got to get involved, and sometimes you just got to get out there and get your hands dirty. May my God bless you all. God bless your families, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
If any of you were having flashbacks, they're now fully there with the sergeant talking to us tonight. I love it. Outstanding. A reminder to every one of us in here, what matters is service, and what brings us all together is that flag. But we also have one other thing. He did ask you to sit down. I'm going to ask you to stand back up again, because it's now time for the national anthem. I tell you, please be seated. I don't care where I am in the world, or when I was in Iraq or all over the world. When that song is played and when that flag is unfurled, it brings a certain spirit and a reminder of why we are here. I say this before we get started and have our speakers tonight. We always have to remember that we are sitting here because we stand on the shoulders of those who went before us and paid the sacrifice so that we can be here tonight. We must never forget that or abuse it as we go forward. Tonight, as we look ahead, our first speaker tonight is former Adjutant General of Kentucky, Major General Donald Storm, U.S. Army, retired. Major General Donald C. Storm began his military career in 1970 as an enlisted soldier serving with the Military Assistance Command, Vietnam. After leaving active duty in 1972, he enlisted in the Kentucky Army National Guard and on December 9, 2003, was appointed as the 51st Adjutant General of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. General Storm retired from military service on December 2007. Welcome to the stage, Major General Donald Storm.
Well, Sergeant Reynolds helped me do part of my job, and that's the deal on any sergeant. He takes care of these officers around, and he did a good job there. So let me start by, I want to welcome all the veterans. Listen to this, their families, friends and neighbors, and all of those in attendance, and all of those generally concerned and consistently support the American soldier, the American Marine, the American Airman, the American Seaman, and our Coast Guard personnel, and all the reserve forces that have become operationally important as well as strategic. So to all of you, thanks so much for your attendance here today in support of this important event and this wonderful family man and first-rate Congressman Andy Barr. One thing about this gathering, Congressman Barr, is These veterans today thoroughly understand the service they rendered was in support and love of the greatest nation on the face of the earth. And there is no close second. They also understand and recognize arrogance when they see it. So, the strong support in this room demonstrates and showcases Congressman Barr's commitment to veterans and their families. They thoroughly understand also that you've been loyal to their needs. You have demonstrated a duty to serve and as a servant leader. And you've been a good listener. You have shown total respect to everyone in this room. You are by nature a selfless individual. You're a we, us, and they person and congressman, not a me, myself, and I. A person who listens and executes when it comes to veterans, not a what I shoulda, coulda guy. You served us all with honor and integrity, and you have exhibited the personal courage to consistently work for programs that meet the needs of veterans and all service personnel. Now, the facts are, since talk is relatively cheap, as many in this room know, Congressman Barr established the 6th District Veterans Coalition, which meets quarterly so he and his staff can hear directly from veterans and solicit their input and advice regarding legislation and military matters. This coalition has grown to more than 1,000, and the casework team has helped hundreds of veterans resolve problems with the VA, help with the disability claims, and help with a host of issues that veterans and their families and all military personnel encounter. So I started my military career in 1970, and my first assignment was Military Assistance Command Vietnam, and the majority of my 37 years and 6 months service was a full-time soldier with the Kentucky National Guard. After 9/11, I became the Chief of Staff of the Kentucky Army National Guard and was honored and privileged to serve as the Adjutant General of the Kentucky Guard from 2003 to 2007. That included the Army and Air National Guard. During that time, we deployed over 10,000 of Kentucky's sons and daughters to Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Balkans. And during that time, we sent numerous airmen and soldiers in response to Katrina and other things that occurred throughout that time period. Now, in addition, a good chunk of the wall that is already built along the border was built by Kentuckians. Some of you may not know that. We've got a man down there that was part of that operation. Now, many of these troops participating in building that wall were from the 6th Congressional District, and nobody at that time thought this wall was a colossal waste. You might have read a Twitter where that was by the opponent that stated that the wall was a colossal waste. Definitely, these Kentucky sons and daughters that worked on these sections of the wall realized it was very important to the safety of all Americans. Congressman Barr believes wholeheartedly in the Guard's assistance in securing the border. However, his opponent does not feel that way. So you need to know that. Bottom line, Congressman Barr is a strong supporter of our National Guard and Reserve forces and the total and joint military force. As a member of the National Guard Caucus, Andy was awarded the 2017 Charles Dick Medal of Merit Award for distinguished service in providing exceptionally strong support to the National Guard. Folks, again, let me say this. Thanks for coming. Thank your families and you for your service. Thank your friends and neighbors and your communities for their service. And remember, veterans, and all these family members and all these people that you love, we need not waste somebody with the heart and the compassion and the appreciation of military service and your service. And I just thank God that I have the opportunity to stand up here and support this great congressman. Thank you all, and God bless each and every one of you.
Kentucky pride shows through right there. I love it. As we move on tonight, it is my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Don Bramer, United States Naval Reserve. Don is the chairman and founder of the Bramer Group, a veteran of both combat and of Capitol Hill. And for those of us who went and watched it and watched this congressman fight, we understand that both require a different set, and you provide those both of skills. But he's also served in the offices and campaigns of U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell at both the state and national levels. After 9/11, he left the political arena and enlisted in the United States Navy, where he joined the family heritage of military services stretching back to World War II. Over the years, he was called up multiple times and served in the Combined Joint Special Operations Task Force from 2005 to 2007, where he operated all over Iraq as an intelligence officer and senior interrogator. For that time, in those tours, he was awarded 2 Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medals, 2 Combat Action Badges, and the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, along with the Iraqi Campaign Medal with 2 stars. In 2009, he received his commission as a naval officer and continues his service as a member of the Reserve Intelligence Staff at the Joint Chiefs of Staff's office. He continues that service as a naval reservist at Joint Base Andrews. Please welcome to the stage Lieutenant Don Bramer.
All right, well, good evening. As Doug said, I'm a naval officer, but I'm also a Kentuckian. And I want to take a moment to talk about a few of the great things that my friend, Congressman Andy Barr, has done to strengthen our national defense and support our war fighters, including our men and women of uniform right here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Of course, Andy has always fought for Kentucky, but did you know that he has fought to secure 16 new Hercules C-130s for the 123rd Air Wing right here in Kentucky? And his commitment to ensure that the Bluegrass Army Depot continues its critical mission to destroy chemical and biological weapons, but also at the same time making sure that they're on the ready to send ammunition across the globe to support our war fighters. Recently, Andy also helped prevent the closure of the National Guard Armory right here on Airport Road, making sure that the 138th Field Artillery and Civil Air Patrol Unit did not end and was able to continue to carry out its mission. And then, that's not all. He's introduced amendments to increase funding to the National Guard counter-drug program, which is critical to ending the fight against narcotic epidemic in this state and across the globe. And as someone who is deployed to Iraq and the Middle East with some of this nation's most elite warfighters, I appreciate how hard Andy continues to work to make sure our troops have the equipment they need when they go downrange. One example is how he helped make sure there's funding for new body armor that helps protect our troops when they're in the fight and against harm's way. He's also working hard to make sure we have the war fighters and the lethality to protect our men downrange. One example is the Common Remote Operated Weapon Station called CROWS, a system that allows our soldiers, airmen, sailors, and Marines to stay within the safety of their vehicle while targeting gunfire safely and not being exposed to gunfire. This reduces the risk to them, but also increases lethality for our warfighters. Andy and his staff continuously work to help us bring jobs back to the Kentucky and helping our folks, not only in uniform, but out of uniform, to bring jobs home. So you wonder, why would anyone turn against that service? Well, I'm telling you, Andy Barr, from our experience, is one of the hardest working members of Congress, fighting to get the troops the weapons and armor they need to do their job to defend this nation. He's a proven record leader for the military. We rely on him, our economy relies on him, and I want you to know Kentucky can continue to rely on Andy Barr. So let me say one thing. We need Andy Barr back in Congress. We need to send him to D.C. And no one knows that more than our service members, our veterans, because there's no one who will fight harder to represent them every day that he's there. So for that, let's go Andy Barr.
Are we developing a theme tonight? A good man is somebody you keep, and Andy Barr is somebody we keep in Congress. We move right along. We go from the Navy back to the United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Travis Cassidy. Sergeant Travis Cassidy is a United States Marine Corps veteran, served for 8.5 years. Born and raised in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, Sergeant Cassidy did a tour in Iraq during Operation Phantom Fury and was involved in the Battle of Abu Ghraib prison, where 42 Purple Hearts were given in his unit alone. Sergeant Cassidy survived 2 separate IED attacks and was later stationed at Camp Johnson, serving as senior non-com of the military police in Camp Guard. He later served at Camp Hansen in Mount Fuji, Japan, and currently owns, and this is pretty cool, 360 Auto Body Repair Shop in North Middleton, Kentucky. Please welcome to the stage Sergeant Travis Cassidy.
Good evening. My name is Travis Cassidy. I am a huge supporter of Andy Barr, as we all are here tonight. Last year, I'm sure some of y'all know about it, some of you don't. My father was hurt down in Hurricane Maria down there in Punta Cana. He broke his hip, so due to the hazardous conditions, they couldn't get him to the hospital. The resort was unable to transport him to the hospital due to the roads were flooded, trees were down, and they had no way of taking a vehicle through the water. So 2 days later, as he laid there in bed, losing blood, in pain, not knowing what to do, he finally got away to the hospital. Once he got to the hospital, there was nothing but more but bad news. They said, "We don't have your blood type." So what do we do after that? So he calls me from some weird number. I know y'all know those international phone numbers. They're long as they can be. But he called me and told me, he says, "They don't have my blood type. I need help. Here's my insurance. Here's this. I need you to find a way to get me back home." So called his insurance, did all that. All they gave me was a runaround. "I'm sorry, but it's an international injury, but we can't help you." I said, "Well, that ain't gonna work. This is my father, he's dying. He's down in the Dominican Republic." I said, "This is not gonna work." So I reach out, get a hold of Andy Barr's office. They sent over the paperwork. 38 minutes later, 38 minutes, my father, which is sitting right there, he got a phone call saying, "You're coming home." Thanks to So we got him back down here to Florida. He had his surgery, and then 2 days later, we get to welcome him right here in Lexington. It was very special, because I didn't know that whenever my dad was going on his anniversary, I didn't know that he was going to get injured and may not make it home. But if it wasn't for Andy Barr, he wouldn't be here right now. This shows you the type of person and character that Andy Barr has. He has integrity. Integrity was not what came to my mind after meeting his opponent for the first time on May 19th. On May 19th, I was at a car show for the Lions Club there in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, when I just so happened to turn around and I ran smack into her. She stuck her hand out. I had no option but to shake her hand, just be respectful. I asked her, I said, "What year was you in Iraq to be the first woman in combat, as portrayed in the earlier commercials earlier in the year?" She gave me the year, and then I asked, "Well, that's funny because I was in Iraq in 2004, and then there was women guarding towers." And then y'all take this home with you. What she says to me next, y'all will never forget. She giggles, and she says, "It's just a commercial." It also really bothers me the way she has used commercials to criticize our president. As the Department of the Navy, the Marine Corps has the same rules and regulations. We are to respect our Commander-in-Chief, which is President Donald Trump. It is not in our policies to downgrade and humiliate our Commander-in-Chief just for an election. I want to thank you, Andy Barr, for allowing me to speak. My fellow military heroes tonight, in the end, we are our brothers and sisters fighting for the same goal, our freedom. I'd like to leave with you one last comment. McGrath's commercials accuse Andy Barr of being scared. I am here to tell you, Andy Barr has no reason to be scared. U.S. Marines know war is won on the ground, not by the air.
As we continue on, we talk about real accomplishments, not what you want to put on the air and make everybody think something else that you're not. But now is a special honor. Sergeant June Hellegrath, United States Marine Corps veteran. Sergeant June Hellegrath is United States Marine Corps veteran. Sergeant Hellegrath served the United States Marine Corps from 1973 to 1976. She is an active member of the Marine Corps League. Would you please welcome to the stage Sergeant June Hellegrath.
Well, good evening, and to the Marines out there, Semper Fi. Before I start, I would like to share a fact that I didn't write on this note card. My spouse, a male, is a 28-year veteran of the Marine Corps. And neither one of us dropped any bombs, I'm sorry. That said, I'd like to share some facts with you. And also to ask you to be kind because I can't see.
The Air Force flying into hell.
Women are the fastest growing segment of veterans. Since 2005, the number seeking VA health care has doubled. Now keep this in mind. Congressman Barr listens to vets, and he has championed legislation to improve the quality of care and the quality of life for all veterans. One example, after a meeting with veterans from the 6th District who had suffered sexual assault, he authored in Congress a measure to empower military sexual trauma survivors access to the CHOICE program. so they could get the kind of help that they need. And I'm trying to stay within my 2 minutes. I leave you with this. As a Marine vet, I am proud of the service I provided to our nation in years gone by. Today, I am most grateful to have Congressman Barr in my corner, quietly and digitally working for all of us. So, Congressman Barr, we thank you for your service.
I tell you, service matters and integrity comes through. And I cannot think of anyone, as we continue, has not talked already about that, and that's the theme that's running through here. And that's why integrity matters, that's why being truthful matters, that's why getting on the ground and doing the basics matter, as we look forward to that. Now, the next, United States Air Force, retired Brigadier General Robert Givens. Over the course of his military career, Robert P. Givens logged more than 3,700 flying hours as command pilot. A graduate of the United States Air Force Fighter Weapons School, he earned 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses awards for his heroic actions in Iraq and flew as a right wing for the iconic United States Air Force Thunderbirds. He also has held several executive-level military posts, including a year as the Deputy Director of Operations for U.S. Forces Korea. Before retiring as a Brigadier General in 2013, Mr. Givens was responsible for the operational combat readiness of over 130,000 United States Air Force personnel at Virginia's Langley Air Force Base. Please welcome to the stage Brigadier General Robert Givens, U.S. Air Force.
We're going to talk about this whole air power thing after the meeting.
Air power.
Yeah, that's right. And Congressman, it's always good when the U.S. Air Force flies. So I had prepared remarks tonight, but in the emotions of the moment, I somehow don't find them appropriate. We are sisters and brothers of the cloth. We have waged our nation's wars, we have stood on the frontier, and we have guarded a republic that all of us hold dear. But we didn't do it alone. We did it with the help of others. In the Second World War, we did it with the help of the women and the men who built our ships and airplanes. In the Korean War, we did it with the help of those who ensured that our politicians kept the right track necessary to keep the war going and come out to a favorable outcome. We have done it in deployments because our families have supported us. And in all of those cases, not one of them has been in uniform, but without their service to those of us in uniform, the defense of the country would fail. To suggest anything other than the valiant service of the men and women who are brave enough to enter into the halls of Congress is disingenuous. And she's a Marine, and she should know better. I have seen Congressman Barr work with the other side of the aisle. I have seen him put national security and country first and reach out in trying to help keep pressure on the North Koreans, which still arguably is an incredible security threat to our country and to global peace. I trust him, and I can think of no more powerful words to say than the following. My son, my 19-year-old son, is a midshipman 3rd class at the United States Naval Academy. And when he graduates and is commissioned and enters into the long line and joins us in that career, then I want this man to help decide when he goes to war, where he goes to war, and what he goes to war with. Let's keep him in Congress.
There are many things in life that are important. We're hearing those tonight, and tonight we continue on with the United States Army veteran, Sergeant William Perkins. William Perkins is a combat veteran who served us ably in Vietnam. His tour, he served all over Vietnam from the DMZ and back. We welcome to the stage now Sergeant William Perkins, United States Army.
I'm not too good of a speaker, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. Reason why I'm here tonight is to support the congressman and his staff. They've been so great to us. I have put quite a few veterans together and really told them about Congressman Barr and the staff, how honest they are, how they really are sincere in doing work. In the past, I have worked with different types of political people, but I have never seen a congressman's staff work so hard in doing the right thing. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, which I don't mind sharing with you all, in 2011, just to show you how Congressman Barr can really put things in action. I was supposed to go be examined at NIC, that's directly right across the Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C. I kind of panicked. When anybody catch cancer, they know they panic, no matter who you are. You have to excuse me because my lungs is kind of messed up too. But anyway, I was bumped 2 days before going to NIC. No room to stay, no place to park. I went to Congressman Barr's office, and guess what happened? They went ahead and provided a room, board, and also I got bumped up higher to see the doctors. And that was one thing that really brought this to my attention, how sincere this gentleman, Congressman Barr, and his staff. Also, in addition to that, I have problems with my legs. I have I had a dislocated knee, which was completely replaced. I have also have mustard gas exposure to my lungs as well as to my lower extremity with arthritis and quite a few other things which I don't want to discuss. But the bottom line is I need a place, which I live in a fourplex apartment upstairs for 22 years, and there's no way I can get up the steps. So I went to the orthopedic at the VA over on Leestown Pike, and they just gave me the runaround for 3 years. They told me everything, which was totally untruthful. I went to Congressman Barr. I talked to Mr. Tyler White, one of his main staff members at that time. He understood me. He saw how sincere I was and how my facts was, how the truth I was. Next thing I know, Congressman Barr was at my house, in my yard. They spent the whole afternoon there working out, and next thing I know, they installed the lift. That was something else, too, that brought to my attention. What I'm saying, folks, is I know Congressman Barr is doing a good job. Now, I know John C. Watts in Nicholasville. He was my family's best friend. My mother could call John C. up. She was an ex-school teacher out of Kentucky State College, and John would call her back direct. That's how close we were. But Congressman Barr reminds me so much of like John C. Watts that I have ever seen, and I'm really going to support him. I got two gentlemen here, both of them are career veterans, and at first, I hope y'all don't mind me saying this. I said, look me awful mean, I might get whooped. But first, I had to convince them, and it didn't take very much. When they saw what was going on, they came aboard, as well as several other veterans. So I'm not too good of a speaker, but I tell the facts. I don't play around. The bottom line, I tell the facts. And it's one thing about it, misleading. There's a lot of misleading information going out that is totally untrue. And you can sit back and just look, and you can size yourself up. And don't worry about nothing, because I know God is on our side, and I know Congressman Barr will be the next Congress to be elected.
Mr. Perkins just talked about something that amazed me when I was first elected, and I actually came in with Andy almost 6 years ago now, and Brad Winstrup is up here as well. And one of the most amazing things, I have 2 full-time staffers. I know these other congressmen do as well, and they spend the vast majority of the time, 60 to 70% of their issues, on Veterans Administration issues. I'm here to tell you Andy Barr is somebody who's works with me and other members who are military on the Hill who look at our workload and say there is no reason we are all working for the time in which a veteran does not have to call their congressman to get the help that they deserve. It is past time. But until that day arrives, you've got Andy Barr to continue to fight for you, and that's something that matters. We continued with the United States Army, Colonel Bill Coltrip. Colonel Bill Coltrip is be next. I went ahead. The Air Force was always flying another mission. We're already ready. You got bumped, Colonel, for a general. I'm kidding. Come on. General John Coburn, United States Army, retired. General John Coburn retired from the United States Army in 2001 after 39 years of service. His last assignment was the Commanding General, United States Army Materiel Command, AMC, one of the largest commands in the Army. General Coburn is a distinguished military graduate of Eastern Michigan University, where he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the infantry. During his time in the Army, he served in various high-level positions and logistics assignments throughout his career, including the Deputy Commanding General of AMC and the Commanding General of the United States Army Ordnance Center and School. He's a graduate of the Industrial College of the Armed Forces at Fort McNair, Washington, D.C. In addition to all these other achievements, he also has a military achievement. He also possesses a Juris Doctorate degree from the University of Missouri and is licensed to practice in Michigan and Kentucky, District of Columbia, and also the Supreme Court of the United States. Please welcome to the stage General John Coburn, United States Army, retired.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you, Congressman, for that kind introduction. I do wish, though, you'd talked a little bit more about all the great things I've done and the fact that I'm only 39 years old. Nevertheless, I do appreciate it. Well, great to be here with all of you. Great to be anywhere, for that matter, if you know what I mean. These days, when I bend over to tie my shoes, I try to figure out what else I can do while I'm down there. But particularly great to be here with such a distinguished group on such a special occasion. Let me start by saying I agree with my friend Travis Cassidy on the comment he made about women in combat. Women have served on the battlefield since 1775. We've always had women on the battlefield. Now, they were not allowed to be in the combat arms, armor, infantry, artillery, and so on, until recently. However, they've always been on the battlefield. They've always died on the battlefield. If you think for 1 minute that the folks delivering ammunition, the folks in the Medical Service Corps, the folks that maintained were not on the battlefield, that's sort of, I don't want to use the word idiotic, but if I could say that, I would. But I can't, so I won't. But really, Hunter Hess and folks like that where's Hunter? There's Hunter. Hunter Hess and folks like that are here tonight, and they know that's nonsense. So when somebody says I was the first lady to serve in combat, it's just not true. We've always had 10 to 14% on the battlefield. Simple as that. Okay, I always like to know who my friends are, so how many Army folks we have here? Who, right? All right. How about Navy? How about Air Force? Marine Corps? Coast Guard? Hey. Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. What I forget? Merchant Marine. Merchant Marines. Anybody? Okay, Army guys, stand up. Looks like you got it. Okay, you want to sing the Army song? I didn't think so. Sit down. Well, we've had enough fun. Why am I here? I'm here for one reason, and that's to support Andy Barr again for Congress. Simple as that. That's why I'm here. And it's my honor to do that because he believes in the things that we believe in. He knows that freedom is not free, and all of you know that for sure. He knows that without a strong United States Department of Defense, there will simply be no United States of America. It is that simple, something that you need to think about. He believes in that, and that's why he supports a strong Department of Defense. Of course, he supports a strong economy as well. But you ever think about it? Whenever you have a strong defense, a strong economy naturally follows along. He also respects you, and he doesn't respect those who don't respect our flag, those who take a knee at certain events, those misguided mayors and others who allow burning of the flag, showing disrespect for the flag, the veteran, for our country. In fact, he told me that it's okay if you take a knee, provided you do it on the interstate. And he said it's okay to burn the American flag too, provided you wrap yourself in it first. And that's the kind of the way that I feel too. He also knows that all of our hopes and dreams are entrusted, all our hopes and dreams collectively are entrusted to the domain of the soldier, the sailor, the airman, the Marine, Coast Guard, Merchant Marine. He knows all that, and that's why he so strongly supports you. You're a very special group. You know that some people go all their life wondering if they made a difference. You don't have that problem. All of you, veterans and families, made a difference. Your predecessors never failed us. You never failed us. And those that follow won't fail us either if we give them the tools they need to do the job. Unfortunately, we've gone too long without the tools they need to do the job. Trust me. So I would ask tonight that you allow Andy to go back to Congress and make a difference. He's already made a difference, and I trust and I'm sure and confident that when you send him back to Congress, he will continue to make a difference. So with that, I guess my time has expired, but let me tell you that it's a great honor for me to support Andy Barr and to walk by your side for a brief period of time this evening. I don't know anyone, any group that I would rather be associated with than the group that's here tonight. So I ask that you vote for Andy Barr, because if you don't go out and vote, nothing matters. Encourage others to do the same thing, because when you vote for Andy, it's not just a vote for Kentucky, it's a vote for America. And frankly, we all need that. Thank you very much. Great seeing you all.
Oh, General, they just handed me the rest of your bio over here. No. We'll try. Thanks, man. Outstanding. Now, as I teased just a few moments ago, we have a United States Army and Colonel Bill Coulter. Listen to this. His renowned career as a Special Missions Unit Leader with Joint Special Operations Command. Bill has served more than 30 years in the United States Army, with 24 years in Special Forces, and led Special Forces soldiers for a total of 10 years in combat environments. He joined the Army in '84, served with the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment in West Germany, but in 1989 he volunteered to become a Special Forces officer, successfully completed the Special Forces Qualification Course, and was a distinguished honor graduate. He returned to West Germany, served in the 1st Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group, Airborne. As a detachment commander, he deployed in support of Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and Operation Provide Comfort in northern Iraq. In 1991, Bill volunteered for and was chosen for the Special Mission Unit at Fort Bragg. He spent the next 13 years conducting a variety of strategically important and sensitive missions for the National Command Authority. Some of these included Operation Somalia, Bosnia, Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom. In 2007, Colonel Coulter took command of the Joint Special Operations Task Force Philippines, supporting the government of the Philippines battle JI and ASG terrorists in Mindanao for 3 years, the only commander to have served for that long unaccompanied. He then became the director of SOCOM's Legislative Affairs Office for 2.5 years and was a primary conduit between SOCOM the component commands, and the United States Congress. Please welcome to the stage Colonel Bill Coltrip, United States Army, retired.
First of all, thanks very much, folks. I really appreciate it. Yeah, you heard a lot there, and some of it, you know, you can talk about. A lot of it you can't talk about, but we'll try and do it the best we can. I'm not from Kentucky, but I did spend time here. Did my Armor Officer Basic course at good old Fort Knox. Enjoyed some lovely times out there, and I am truly a fan of the world's best bourbon. It's from this great state, so I consider myself an adopted child of this wonderful state. As you said, you heard a lot of what I did, and I wanted to make kind of one thing clear. I've never done this before, where I've actually spoke in support of a politician. But when I heard some of the comments that were being made about Andy, and about, you know, the fact that he had not served, that really upset me. And I said, we're going to come and we're going to do a little bit of a speech to help him out here, because he's a really great American and he's done a lot to help us out. And I'll cover some of that as we go through it. One of the things that is, I'm so proud to be here with all these vets in here. If you really think about it, only 5% of the United States population actually serves. It's actually less than that. And then to get back out and serve again in the community is also a great honor. And that's one of the things I'm doing right now. In fact, as I was telling him, the company that I'm working for, we are flying specialized aircraft overseas in support of U.S. troops. So I guess you can say I went from being a ground guy to being almost an aviator. But it's still supporting what we need to do and taking care of the boys and gals overseas as they're doing the righteous work of eliminating the bad folks. Let's leave it at that. But one of the things I always say is, you know, I'm really proud of vets when they go out there and get involved in the community. But just because a person's a veteran doesn't mean they deserve your support or your vote automatically. There are great folks that are doing amazing things, and I've seen what Andy has done up on the Hill. And it really impressed the heck out of me, and that's why I wanted to come talk about him tonight. You must be a person, you must look at the person and what their impact is on our government and on our nation. Andy's been a strong supporter of the veterans of Kentucky and a strong supporter in rebuilding our military. I've seen the 8 years under the last administration, what it did. It decimated our military and really drove us down into an area that we needed a lot of work. Andy was there making sure that we got the funding that we needed, even through the very hard times. I was lucky, I was in special operations. We tended to get funded a little bit better, but again, it was because of Andy and all the other great Republican congressmen that fought hard to make sure that we got the funding that we needed to do the missions that were really tough out there. Just FYI, usually they don't send us to the really nice spots. I mean, for once in a while, I'd like to get deployed to Norway, but for the most part, it's places like Somalia, Africa, South America, and then other places that are just really not nice. So he really helped to make sure that we got what we needed to do our job. The other part that's really key and what I really appreciate about what Andy's doing is you heard some of the mention earlier about what he's doing with North Korea. The Obama administration really kowtowed to a lot of the enemies of the United States, all the way from North Korea, Iran, China, and what we're dealing with now with Russia. Andy's worked very tirelessly to reverse those mistakes and to bring this country back to its proper place in the world. A place where we're respected again and where the enemies of the United States understand that they can't push us around anymore. His opponent wants to take us back to those bad old days, and we have got to prevent that from happening. Democrats have already said if they get control of the House in November, they plan on rolling back the tax cuts that we've all benefited from. That just cannot happen. They want to roll back our energy independence by enforcing more stricter standards and reimposing all the restrictions that they had on coal, natural gas, and oil. Right now, the United States is now the #1 exporter of oil. That is just amazing, and this Congress has made sure that we've done that. They also want to abolish ICE and just ignore securing our borders. We cannot let that happen. We've seen in the news recently situations where people who are not supposed to be in this country have gone out and murdered United States citizens. That is just absolutely wrong, and we have got to work to change that and reinforce what this Congress and this administration are trying to do. It's so vital that everyone not become complacent just because they think that this election doesn't matter. It does. If you want this country to move ever closer to socialism, to look like Venezuela, to look like Cuba, to look like Nicaragua, then don't vote. If you want this country to be the bright, shining beacon of freedom and prosperity for our families, then get out there in November and support Andy with your vote. God bless all of you amazing people that came here tonight. God bless Andy and his family, and God bless the United States of America.
Harlan, Kentucky. He served 21 years in the United States Air Force from 1967 to 1988. Among the specialties in his career, he flew an aerial gunner on the Strategic Air Command, including 3 B-52 combat tours in Southeast Asia following a ground tour in Vietnam, including were missions over Hanoi in December of 1972. After the Vietnam period, Brian served as an instructor position at SAC's Combat Crew Training Squadron and later completed U.S. Army Airborne training as part of a joint service assignment with the U.S. Special Operations Command. He was last assigned at the Pentagon and USSCOM's Washington office. In addition to his many decorations, he has received the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Purple Heart, the Meritorious Service Medal, Air Force Meritorious Medal, and many other air medals as we go along, as well as representing 100 combat missions over Vietnam in B-52s. Please welcome to the stage Senior Master Sergeant Brian Engel, United States Air Force, retired.
I want to make sure I've got this right. I have to review it now and then. The Army's hooah, the Navy's hoo-yah, huh? Marine Corps, nice and simple. Right? Yeah, hoo-yah, yeah, hoorah. I'll get it. Anyway, I know the Air Force. It's hi there. How you doing? You know? So that's what I say to you tonight. And I want you to know I'm very happy to be here and very proud to be here and support Andy Barr's re-election. I have seen constantly, as I know you have, the campaign ads of Congressman Barr's opponent, where she appears in her flight jacket and pats the nose of a fighter plane and tells us about her 89 combat missions, and that's why we should vote for her for Congress. So I thought I might try first to respond a little bit to that, so I wore my flight jacket. I think mine's a lot warmer than hers, though, burning up in this thing. But it fits still, so I like that part. And I do apologize, I could not bring a B-52. I begged the Air Force Museum up in Dayton, and they said no. I couldn't pat the nose anyway, it's 40 feet up in the air, so we'll have to use our imagination. I do have some combat missions of my own, plus countless nuclear alerts, a whole bunch of parachute jumps, and some other good experience, so I know a few things about military service, as all of you do. And I think I would like to make a distinction here. I was an investigator in my last specialty, and we handled the facts. So for the facts, let me be an investigator and handle them here. Flying airplanes and serving in Congress, fact number 1, are different occupations. It's not about what you flew, it's about what you know. Like the fundamentals and the structure of the law. Thank you. Like the process of making laws, communicating, negotiating, persuading, horse trading sometimes when it gets the job done. Andy Barr's been very successful, 3 terms doing that, and he's proven he's the person we need. And we have recent results, big time. We have a safer nation, stronger national defense, we have a booming economy, and here at home, Andy Barr is taking care of veterans. I'm one of them, and I love it. So, more importantly too, it's about ideology. By and large, Kentucky is a moderate to conservative state. In the last breakout I saw, there was about 25% moderate and about 40, maybe 45% conservative. Most people on that side. Andy Barr well represents that group. So, logically, considering just the facts, it is what we call a no-brainer. Andy Barr is our man. I do want to make another distinction here, though. Make no mistake. I do, as I know Congressman Barr does, have the greatest respect for Amy McGrath's military service, as we do everybody's. And I would really be delighted to fly an airplane with her any day, or jump out of one. I think, yeah. Maybe not. But, distinction again, I do not want her flying our country or our Kentucky, because I believe she would be holding full left rudder. We'd be going that way. I believe her co-pilot would be Nancy Pelosi. And I believe her ground crew would be Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders. And I would very much worry about where that flight took us. So no thank you. The person I want in the front seat of our 6th district is Andy Barr. That's who I will vote for in November, and I know you will too. And I will do all I can to see to his reelection. Thank you so much.
Hi, y'all. That's a Georgia version of Air Force, okay? Give me a break. Air power. All right. The next person for the state of Kentucky needs really no introduction. He's former congressman, but also Captain Jeff Davis, United States Army veteran. Jeff Davis represented Kentucky's 4th Congressional District for 8 years and served on the House Armed Services and Financial Services Committee, and eventually chaired the Subcommittee on Human Resources. He worked closely with civilian and military leadership to strengthen the armed forces and to take care of our veterans. From Congress, but also from the military. Because at age 17, Jeff enlisted in the Army and later earned an appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point. Among those later assignments, he served as an assault helicopter flight commander with the 82nd Airborne Division. He ran flight operations for the United States Army Peace Enforcement Mission between Israel and Egypt. He is also a former Army Ranger, aviator, and senior parachutist. He's a life member of the United States Army Ranger Association, the 82nd Airborne Association, and the National Rifle Association. He is a true son of Kentucky. He has been representing the state, and now he comes forward for us. And welcome to the stage, former Congressman and Captain Jeff Davis, United States Army veteran.
It is awesome to be here with you tonight. One of the things that I loved about being in Congress, it wasn't some of the silly politics that you'd run into in the swamp. It wasn't some of the strange protesters that would come that wouldn't appreciate the fact that the men and women sitting out here provided them with their right to free speech, their right to redress a grievance, and their right to assemble, even if a lot of what they said didn't make any sense to me. But I will tell you one thing, standing here tonight and looking out on 5 generations of men and women that served this country in peace and war moves me and gives me confidence to know that with my own sons going in the Army for a 6th generation, to carry forward that tradition, I have hope
because I can look back at the wake of your lives and our service and know that these young men and women who are standing up today are going to carry that tradition forward to uphold the Constitution, to protect the country we have, and our right to assemble and meet here tonight. We're here tonight to do one thing, and that's to thank a proven leader who's serving our republic and has made a difference in every one of our lives, my friend, Andy Barr. Now, I'll tell you something, military service is a great honor, but military service by itself is no measure of how effective a congressman will be. I've seen it firsthand. There are many issues spanning all aspects of our lives that are affected by our Congress. In the end, America's citizens are given the right to choose the voices that they want in Congress to make their own voices heard in Washington, and choosing elected officials who most closely represent their values. Indeed, we all served our country ultimately to protect those constitutional rights. Now, I want to say something about Andy's opponent. Now, I was an expert rifleman, I was an Army Ranger, and I'm just tell you something. Amy McGrath is not shooting straight when she talks about the issues. Do you realize that? In her own words, Andy Barr's opponent is a liberal progressive, which usually means, to those of us in Kentucky, and those of us in the Republican Party, and those of us in the heartland, and those of us who make a payroll, it usually means higher taxes, more spending, and less freedom. All we have to do is look what happened under 8 years of Barack Obama and the years that Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House of Representatives, and case closed. Amy McGrath is pro-abortion and opposes the president's border security objectives. And she opposed the tax cuts that put money into every pocket of every taxpayer in this room tonight. Andy Barr is committed to protecting the unborn, while his opponent is not. Andy's also a proven protector of your Second Amendment rights. Well, his opponent But I'll tell you something else about Amy McGrath. I've been shooting since I was 6 years old, long before putting on a uniform. I decided I'll give her a fair shake, because I wasn't going to talk about anything that wasn't true. I went to her webpage and I read her position on the Second Amendment. My goodness, you couldn't make heads nor tails of what she believed. It was about having a conversation. My view on the Second Amendment and everything else that Amy McGrath says is, Amy, just answer the question. You say you're a Marine, answer the question. When my drill sergeants ask me something, or my ranger instructors, or my flight instructors, or my commanders, they expected an answer. And what's on that webpage tells me that she's not answering the question, because if anybody's afraid, it isn't Andy Barr, who has fought to get to Congress and fought for everybody in the 6th District. It's Amy McGrath, because she needs to start sharing some facts about what she believes. Because a tax and spend, socialist liberal coming into this district is not what Kentucky wants. I got my own taste of Nancy Pelosi helping out an opponent, because George Clooney, the Hollywood actor's father, was my opponent in 2004. And he went to Hollywood, and he went to San Francisco, and he went to Miami, and New York, and Chicago, and just about everywhere else in the country on the East Coast and the West Coast to raise money to come back to Kentucky to run against me. And I asked the citizens of the 4th District one question, and I asked the citizens of the 6th District that same question tonight. Do you want Hollywood and San Francisco to determine your member of Congress, or do you want the citizens of Kentucky's 6th District to decide who's going to represent you in Congress? Andy's opponent may represent the views, which she obviously does, of her donors in New York, Hollywood, San Francisco, and Boston. But Andy Barr, his views represent the vast majority of Americans in the bluegrass. Politics is a tough business, and the best congressmen like Andy Barr are tough, honorable men and women dedicated to the ideals and values of the people they serve and represent. Let me tell you a few things that my friend Andy Barr has done. And I watched him fight to get to Congress. When he lost his first race to Ben Chandler, he called me up and he sounded like an Army Ranger. He didn't lose that race, he just got recycled, folks. And he came back with decisiveness and with vigor and with initiative and intestinal fortitude. And he sent another person that couldn't answer the question packing, and we've got a congressman of character here in Kentucky's 6th District. By his work on tax reform, Andy put money into the pockets of every tax-paying citizen in this region. Andy voted to undo the damage of Obamacare, while Amy McGrath seeks to expand government control over your health care, and she does say that on her webpage. Andy is a leader in the fight against international terrorism. I'm going to tell you something. In World War II, I asked you this question. Was it the men going ashore on Normandy and parachuting with the 82nd and 101st Airborne Division that won the war? Or was it the folks in Bletchley Park, the code breakers who were reading the German mail and giving intelligence to save tens of thousands of American soldiers and sailors in that invasion? The entire infrastructure of the defense establishment and the governments of the Allies worked together in every capacity to contribute to that victory, to help those soldiers going ashore. Andy Barr is doing something very similar that doesn't get a lot of headlines here in Kentucky, but is absolutely critical in the fight for our national security, our national defense, and the future of our children and grandchildren. He's a leader in the fight against international terrorism from his work as chairman of the Financial Services Subcommittee on Trade and Monetary Policy. That sounds pretty boring when you hear that, like maybe reading the algorithm tables or something like that for those of us that grew up in the age before calculators. But he's working with the Treasury Department to root out terror finance networks so guys like Bill Coltrip and his soldiers don't have to go over and risk their lives to finish the mission. Andy Barr's leadership in Congress on the Financial Services Committee is important. And I'll tell you that as a member of the Financial Services Committee and a member of the Ways and Means Committee and a member of the 82nd Airborne Division, I want a man like him leading there in that fight to protect our banking system, our financial system, our economy, and our infrastructure from cyber attacks from enemies of this country like Russia and China and the Iranians and the North Koreans and criminal networks that want to end our way of life. He's also an unsung hero in the fight, and the thing that I know about him is he doesn't, like people who actually done something in the military, they're not the ones up front talking about how great they are, Amy. Andy Barr just gets to work and does the job like all of us did when we were wearing the uniform and we were downrange. I don't need a picture of Andy Barr in front of these airplanes to know that he's standing up to Xi Jinping in China because he's working to end Chinese currency manipulation. He's working to end the trade imbalance, and he's working to make sure there's a level playing field for American workers on trade internationally, which will protect jobs in Kentucky. What have you been doing, Amy? Again, leading by example, not by his words, Andy Barr introduced and passed legislation which imposes far-reaching sanctions on North Korea. In fact, the toughest ones to date that have come out of the U.S. Congress. His leadership, Andy Barr's leadership right here in Lexington, Kentucky, helped push North Korea to the negotiating table. And hopefully his work and the work of others in Washington are going to eventually denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. And here's what he's done for veterans and our families. He works every day with a great team to serve the veterans and active duty families of the 6th District. You've heard some of those testimonies tonight. He worked to pass the VA Mission Act to get more veterans treated and allow veterans access to non-VA medical providers when they need it. Andy Barr fought to reduce the claims backlog that all of us work to overcome because he's the go-to person. His folks are the ones that will break through the bureaucracy for veterans who are trapped. I'm not interested in empty words from someone who hasn't served in the Congress about what they'd do if they were there. He's there every day, and those of us that have been there know those staff members and our work on Capitol Hill make a difference in the lives of veterans when we choose to engage, and Andy Barr has been courageous in standing up to the bureaucracy to fight for Kentuckians. More importantly, Andy led from the front, again, on the issue of sexual assault in the military and sponsored and passed the Military Save Act to make sure survivors of sexual assault get the treatment and the healing support they need. And he advocated to end the Obama-era weakening of our national defense, to re-equip our military, and to deter the threats that we do have from Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and global terrorism. And best of all, for those of us that might have started out when it was $78 a month, or $175 a month back in the days 40, 50 years ago when some of us went in the military. Andy Barr worked to give our troops the largest pay raise that service members have gotten since the height of the Iraq War over 10 years ago. Andy Barr has also worked to protect our borders and keep America safe at home. He supported and pushed numerous measures to stop illegal immigration and drug trafficking. His opponent said she thought building a wall on the Mexican border was a stupid idea. In her own words, you know, walls work. They worked pretty well for the Qing dynasty in China for about 300 years. And I'll tell you something else. The fact of the matter is, Andy Barr cares more about the security of the citizens of the 6th District and making a difference day by day than his opponent does. And that's proven in the reality of his legislative accomplishments and the difference that he's made in the lives of everybody here. I'm proud to call Andy Barr my friend, and by the standards of many of us know in this room, he is battle-tested in the tough political environment in Washington, D.C. He stands firm to serve and protect the families of Kentucky's 6th District, and one thing I will say, Andy is the real deal. I'm honored to be here with him tonight, and let's make sure we send him back to D.C. to keep up his great work, to stand firm for Kentucky. Tell your friends, tell your fellow veterans, tell your neighbors, get a bumper sticker, get them getting signs in their yard, making phone calls, and doing the work on the ground to win this fight. God bless you all.
Outstanding. Now to the stage, another United States Marine Corps veteran, Sergeant Tyler White. Tyler served the United States Marine Corps from 2004 to 2012. As an infantryman, Tyler served deployments in Fallujah and Ramadi, Iraq. After his first enlistment, he served as an instructor in the Officer Candidate School at Quantico, Virginia, before being selected as a team leader for Psychological Operations Team. Tyler deployed to Afghanistan in 2011, leading a small team in support of the 2nd and 3rd Reconnaissance Battalions. Please welcome to the stage Sergeant Tyler White, United States Marine Corps.
Hey, I'll try to be brief. A lot of you all know me. It's great to see a lot of you. I haven't seen you. I used to work for Congressman Barr, and I'll tell you a little bit about that story of how I got that job. When I got back in 2012, I was going to school at UK. Walked right out of the Marine Corps into a classroom at the University of Kentucky, and a little bit later, I was told that my tuition had not been paid by the VA, and for some reason that stressed me out because I was dealing with all these other stresses. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't a United States Marine anymore, right? I wasn't a civilian necessarily. I tell you what I was hurting. I was stressed out. And I called my congressman because that's what the VA suggested I do, right? And it's kind of one of those snarky comments, call your congressman. But I did, I reached out and called my congressman, I got zero response. So I told that story to a friend of mine. He said, you need to meet a guy by the name of Andy Barr. I said, who's Andy Barr? And they told me who he was, running for Congress. So I walked into Andy Barr's campaign office and handed him my resume, told him my story, and he says, this is great. And he said, I can't pay you anything. I said, listen, I'm not looking to get paid. I said, I'm looking to make a difference. Lo and behold, he ended up winning that election. We started those Veterans for Barr, and after he won, he took me to lunch. He said, what'd you think about the process? I said, I thought it was disgusting. He said, will you come work for me? So I tell you a little bit about something about the man behind me. Thought the process was disgusting, and he looks at me and says, come work for me. So I did. And Congressman Barr allowed me to go to school while working for him. Before I knew it, I was leading that office. In that office, Congressman Barr empowered us to serve the people of the 6th Congressional District to the best of our ability. And I'll tell you what, I'm very proud of my military service, but I am more proud of the things that we accomplished in that office, especially with regards to helping veterans, especially with putting not only our full attention, but our hearts on the line every single day to help make the life of somebody that was struggling, that was hurting, a little bit better. The last thing I'll say is not about Congressman Barr, but about that is staff. Anthony Allen, Matthew Bradford, you'll hear about later. What an unbelievable experience it is to serve underneath a leader who empowers their staff to help other people. That it's not about them, that it's about you. With that, I'd like to thank you and like to thank my friend Congressman Andy Barr for everything he's given me and everything he's given our district.
As we continue on, I want to introduce to you Corporal Matthew Bradford, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Matthew Bradford joined the Marines Delayed Entry Program while he was a senior in high school in 2004. Corporal Bradford served and deployed with the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, Echo Company, 2nd Platoon, 2nd Squad. On January 18, 2007, Corporal Bradford was severely injured on a foot patrol in Haditha, Iraq, in El Anbar province, when he stepped on an exploded improvised device, resulting in the loss of both legs as well as his vision. But on April 7, 2010, following extensive medical treatment and rehabilitation, I want you to know that Corporal Bradford became the first blind double amputee in history to re-enlist in the United States Marine Corps. Please welcome Corporal Matthew Bradford, United States Marine Corps.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you so much. Thank you. You know, I have to start off by saying, and it's been true since the first day I met Congressman Barr in November 2012. I mean, you just saw how he walked me upstairs, he walked me up here. He truly cares. He not only cares for his staff, his constituents, but his veterans. And that, serving in the military, that's the one thing that you all look for, and a lot of veterans look for too, and we trust people. And it takes a lot for us to trust people, and that's the one thing that I found with Congressman Barr, that trust is not a problem. He is somebody that truly cares, as I said. Hold on real quick, I think they might be doing another commercial over there or something with their runway. You know, when I found out that I was speaking up here, I sat back and I thought about these things because I'm not used to, speaking at these kind of events. I'm used to sharing my story, but the one thing that really rang with me is, like, if you're passionate and you truly care and love something, then you don't need a speech to read from. It comes from the heart. And bear with me because, thank you. I'm blind, as I mentioned in my bio, but wherever the American flag is, please take a minute, turn around and look at that. The flag is truly beautiful. It's something that I see each and every day that I wake up, even though it's, I don't see nothing at all, but I see that American flag, and I know what that American flag represents, and I embody what that American flag represents each and every day. And that's what I teach my kids, my wife, and I will never, ever take a knee for that American flag. And if somebody wants to take a knee for that American flag, they can have my left knee, and they can walk around and understand what freedom really is. Because I can get my knee anytime I want, but if you understand what it's like to serve this country, to walk down the front lines and to be shot at each and every day, fighting the enemy, that's freedom, because we are truly blessed with people like Tyler White, Travis Cassidy, to go overseas each and every day, to lay down their life for that flag and for the freedoms that we truly love today. You know, as I mentioned, I truly love the American flag, but equally, I truly love the Marine Corps flag. I love the Marine Corps. I love the 7 honorable years that I spent in the Marine Corps. I've been recognized by a lot of people. The president in January. I've received a lot of accolades. But the one thing that I will never ever do is bash or use my military, my Marine Corps service to ever receive any kind of recognition, or in some cases receive a vote to Congress. Because that is something that I truly care, and I will be willing to lay down my life each and every day for that flag. So that's something, the motto of Marine Corps, Semper Fidelis, that still rings with me today, even though I've been out of the Marine Corps for 6 years. I just deployed to Iraq in 2006, wonderful patrol. I mean, we got shot at each and every day. I took the wrong step, and it led me down an amazing road. That amazing road led me down with 2 prosthetics and no vision. But then I test myself each and every day, because all the things that I learned in the Marine Corps is this. I learned to lead by example. I learned to adapt and overcome. And I also learned to never quit. And those are things that I see each and every day from Congressman Andy Barr. He loves his job. He's motivated to attack each and every day, and that's key. We need a motivating leader because America is moving in the right direction right now, and we need to maintain that. We don't need this. Try to watch what I say sometimes, but but it's truly amazing. From overcoming my injuries, adapting and overcome, leading by example are things that's helped me along the way. It helped me accomplish many events, marathons, Spartan races, graduating University of Kentucky, and having the mindset to never quit, to re-enlist in the Marine Corps when many people told me that I couldn't do it, that I should take the money and I should go be a veteran. But at that time, I didn't want to be a veteran. I didn't want the money because I didn't join the Marine Corps for the money. I joined the Marine Corps to serve this country. And on January 18, 2007, I served this country in a different way because the Lord above looked on me to share and inspire others with my story. It was my next mission in life to pursue that path. And that's what I'm doing now. As a graduate of the University of Kentucky, also now, Congressman Barr took a chance on me last year, and now I'm a National Security Fellow for Congressman Andy Barr. So sharing and inspiring other veterans with my story, and also, passing along legislative updates to the veterans throughout the 6th Congressional District is very important to me. Getting to know and meet these veterans like Mr. Perkins, I've got to know really well in our office, and he is truly, truly an American hero, Vietnam veteran. So, it's just meeting Mr. Perkins and other veterans throughout our district has just truly made me enjoy my job each and every day. I love what I do. Some of the things that we've done with Congressman Barr is, from the Veterans Coalition that he started with Tyler White in 2012 to, we do veterans outreach meetings now where we go out in the district, we meet veterans at the VFWs, the American Legions, from the county. We meet veterans that have never even attended or heard about our coalition meetings. But we're getting the word out, and we're helping spreading the word on what's going on in D.C. because there's so much legislation out there that nobody knows about. So I want to make it a point to them to let them know that what's going on in D.C. and what Congressman Barr is doing is right for the veterans, and that's very important. We started our Facebook page, so we're letting veterans know that who are active on Facebook to check out our page each and every day because we post legislative updates, we post our meetings. We are very open to our veterans and our constituents in this district. And that's something, if we could receive an email or a phone call, within minutes, I want to make sure that we get back to them because it's very important to me because each veteran, they need to realize now, they have that trust with our politicians now. They didn't have it the last 8 years. The last 8 years, the veterans were kind of pushed in the back. And now it's time to let the veterans realize that we're in the front because the percentage of veterans who fought and served this country to defend that flag and defend all of us, we need to make sure that we're being taken care of. And Congressman Barr is doing that. And I don't know if you saw that 2 weeks ago. This has been going on for a long time, even before I was in the office, but we took an idea to Congressman Barr through the Veterans Coalition and the outreach meetings to give the VAs here in Lexington a name, a title, a designation. And 2 weeks ago on Thursday, we gave them that name, Franklin Sousley and Troy Bowling. We put 2 heroes on those VAs, and it was truly an amazing day for the VA community, for a legislator that Congressman Barr put through. And it's just the amazing work that he does. It's just the simple ideas from the veterans, pass along to us, that we pass along to Congressman Barr. And when we give those ideas to Congressman Barr, he gets them done in D.C. And this is why we need to keep him in Washington, D.C. We don't need his opponent to destroy everything that is great about America right now. Disrespect the things that kind of disrespect the American way. Some of the things that she says and things that she believes. It's like, no offense. On a commercial, is that all you got, Andy Barr? I mean, she stands on a runway and she talks about her military service. What does she have? What does she got? Andy Barr is proven. He has a record that is proven, and we need to keep him in Washington. So this November, urge your neighbors, urge your community, buy the sign, or get the signs, get the stamp, or the shirts, the hats. We need to keep Andy Barr in district. Andy Barr is a family man. He's a friend. He's caring, and honestly, he's somebody that I look up to. He's a role model of mine and somebody that I'm truly blessed to work for each and every day. And the one thing I look forward to in November, they always talk about this blue wave. I'm so excited to see that blue wave be flushed down the toilet. So, yeah. So it's a true honor to stand up here with Congressman Barr and the veterans up here alongside me and all of you all. I truly love this country. I love my Marine Corps, and I will do anything I possibly can to keep Andy Barr in office. So thank you so much. God bless America. God bless Kentucky.
We're gonna go jump off the stage.
If that's not really going to make you understand what's at stake, I'm not sure what I can tell. Our next speaker is, I'll introduce him by his formal titles. He is a congressman from Ohio. He is a Colonel Brad Winstrup, United States Army. And that is all the notes I will use. Many times people think of Washington, D.C. as a place in which nothing is accomplished and that people don't care about each other. But I'm going to tell you a short story that on every Wednesday morning in my office for the last few years, there's a group of men, a group of congressmen who have gathered together to share our life, to share about our families, to share about what's going on, sometimes to laugh, sometimes to cry, sometimes to just vent and frustrate, and that is what our life is. Last June, we were having our normal Wednesday meeting, and in that time there were several of us sitting around. One of our group was missing, and we were getting toward the end of our meeting. And all of a sudden, one of my staff members, who knows that you do not open that door during that time, that is my time, that is the time that I have with my friends and congressmen that we serve with and we share together. They opened the door and they said, "Congressman, I'm very sorry, but I need to tell you there has been a shooting at the baseball field. And the members, and we don't know who is hurt." I turned on the TV and I remembered one of the persons supposed to be sitting at the table where we were at was Brad Winstrup. What I did not know at that moment, until I found out a little bit later, was that God had another appointment for him that day. It was not to be in our office praying, because he was needed to be in action. Because on that day, several were injured, and Congressman Steve Scalise was injured very badly. He lay there for a while until the Capitol Hill Police stopped the shooter. And as soon as the shooting was over, as Steve Scalise will tell you, an angel ran to his side and was there in that moment. It takes someone who cares about others to serve in Congress and to serve the Army. It takes a man of extreme character to go running to the side of a brother when he did not still know what may still be out there. He just recently received the Soldier's Medal for his heroic action on that day. He is someone that I can truly say is my brother. He is my friend. He is someone who ran into the action. And Steve Scalise, our majority whip, is alive today because of the prayers of people and of the work of Congressman and also Colonel Brad Winstrup. Please welcome to the stage, Brad Winstrup.
Thank you very much. Doug, my friend, Andy, my friend, I thank you for having me here today. When Andy first asked me if I'd come down here, I said, "Are you kidding me?" In a heartbeat. And to have Doug here today is great. I want to thank Doug for that kind introduction. I also like to say I want to thank Kentucky for one of your finer exports. You may not be aware, my wife is from Kentucky. So even though I live in Ohio, my wife is from Kentucky. And I now know what bourbon is all about. But also I want to say to Corporal Bradford, I get to, as a physician and still in the reserve, I get to spend time at Walter Reed. And it's such an honor to do so. And I see so many like you who have said, "I am not a wounded warrior, I am a warrior." And you still are a warrior. Thank you. So in Iraq, I served at Abu Ghraib prison. I was chief of surgery there for a year. Travis, I want to thank you for capturing Abu Ghraib, so I get to spend a year's all expense paid vacation living in one of those prison cells for a year. Thank you very much. You know, I came down here a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago. Andy asked me to come down. He said, I got a Veterans Coalition. And when I came and I saw how many veterans were there to hear from Andy, I knew how hard he was working on behalf of our military and our veterans. And Andy, I thank you very much, and you have proven that time and time again. A few words that I know you Army veterans will recognize right away: leadership, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. Those are the core values of the Army. And every branch has their core values. And that's what I see in Andy Barr. Because those values are what motivates you to want to leave the world a better place than you found it. And that's what Andy's service is about in Congress. You know, his dad served in World War II. And I'm pretty sure those very values were passed right along to Andy Barr. I don't know how many of you know who Mike Spann is. Mike Spann, everyone should know his name, actually. It's kind of a shame we don't. Mike Spann's a Marine. He later joined the CIA. He was the first American killed in Afghanistan after 9/11. On his CIA application, he wrote, I believe in the meaning of honor and integrity. I'm an action person who feels personally responsible for making changes in this world that are within my power. Because if I don't, no one will. That's the attitude of Andy Barr. I'm going to make changes in this world that are within my power, and he does that as he serves us in Congress. You know, Andy doesn't serve on Armed Services Committee. He serves on Financial Services. But let me tell you, he is there every step of the way as we move along in trying to support our military, as we have increased pay, as we have made it an issue to train and equip our troops properly, to increase the number of personnel, to increase all of our assets, so that this great fighting force that the world has ever seen is fully ready at all times. And it's really hard for me to understand how a veteran, his opponent, could support and stand behind the previous administration that decimated our military, that decreased our personnel, that brought our Navy to pre-World War II levels. I don't understand that, and I don't think you do either. As mentioned earlier, tried to get a flyover, wanted one of those planes from the museum. I don't know if any of you knew this, but until we got where we are today with funding our military, we had Marine aviators taking parts off of planes that were in museums. Maybe that's why you couldn't get the flyover. Maybe the parts were missing. But we are back, folks, and we are back because we have the support in Congress of people like Andy Barr. Somebody mentioned before the Mission Act, which was something I was proud to work on so much, that is bringing more care to our veterans and doing so many things on behalf of our veterans. It took a long time to get this, but it was about getting more care to our veterans. When you're sick, you want that care. And we want the VA system to be able to provide that. And we got that done. We also were looking at how we can get more providers. And we also review the capabilities of the VA itself. And we have cleaned up so much. If you are in the VA system and you are not acting on behalf of our veterans, you are gone. And we got that into law, and we got that into law by the help of Andy Barr. You know, I'll tell you this interesting story about the Mission Act along the way that really was frustrating for me. When we put the Mission Act together, our chairman, Dr. Phil Rowe, also a veteran, he worked with the other side of the aisle. And every member of the other side of the aisle co-sponsored that bill. He did telephone town halls with Democrats to support this bill, to get out there and promote this bill. They all co-sponsored that bill. Well, let me tell you what happened when we marked it up. We marked it up during the week of the tax relief bill. And politics put you aside. Politics made you second. I'll tell you what happened that day. Every Democrat spoke about the tax bill rather than veterans. And guess what? There was someone in the room from Nancy Pelosi's office to make sure every single one of them voted against the very bill they co-sponsored, including a command sergeant major. So don't be fooled when someone says they're a veteran and they're going to act on behalf of veterans, because it doesn't always happen, folks. And when you put politics ahead of God, family, and country, we have a problem. And it does happen, but it doesn't happen with Andy Barr. So you talk about national security, you know, it's more than just guns and ships. It's more than just military personnel. We have plenty of tools in our chest. I know many of you know this. How do we work internationally? How do we try to keep peace and make our military a deterrent rather than having to go to war? But when we have to go to war, we go, and we go to win. At the same time, we have to work through diplomacy. We have to work with our allies and sharing of intelligence. Our military's there when we need them. But the other tool in our chest is what we do economically. Andy serves on financial services. He carries that sword. He knows how to use that sword to bring our enemies down and to aid us when our military has to go to war, or maybe prevent us from even having to go to war. It's a national security tool. He gets it, and he leads the way on that time and time again. You know, I think about our great nation. And I think of all the freedoms that we enjoy. I think about the beginning of our country. I think of all the things that have happened since that time. We might have been the freest we ever were at that time. I can think of 3 things that made us more free. 1 is abolishing slavery. 2 is women's right to vote. And 3, repealing prohibition. Some might argue on that one, but since that time, I just think we've seen time and time again where we see our freedoms taken away. And let me point something out. You know, we get a lot of discussion about health care, and obviously I'm engaged in that as a doctor especially. But the health care bill that was passed did something that I never thought I'd see in our country. It said you have to buy something just because you're alive. It said that the government is going to allow you to be forced into buying something just because you're alive, and if you don't, you are going to be penalized. How is that freedom, folks? How is that freedom? And Andy Barr's opponent is for that type of structure. We are about freedom. We are about freedom. You know, as a doctor, I can tell when I'm in my white coat and scrubs and I'm working with people, they trust me. When I'm in my uniform and I engage with people, I can tell they trust me. Congress is a little different. That pin on your lapel doesn't always quite cut it the same way. But I can tell you this about Andy Barr. We came in together, someone I got to know right away. My wife and his wife are good friends, and he is somebody I trust. And he's somebody you trust, and you need to trust. And you better tell your neighbors and tell your friends that if you want somebody you can count on, that if you want somebody that's honest, if you want somebody you can trust, he's sitting right here. If you want a stronger nation, if you want a safer nation, if you want a more economically secure nation, if you want to increase the productivity in this nation, if you want to increase the freedom of the people of this nation, you will vote for Andy Barr. I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of groups, many that didn't serve. And I usually end with a little story. You know, when I was a kid, we'd kiss our parents goodnight and we'd go to bed. And my dad would always come in one more time and he'd kiss us on the forehead and he'd make the sign of the cross. When you tuck your kids in at night, or your grandkids, and they feel safe and secure and unafraid, remember why. And Andy Barr does not have to be reminded of why that is, and that's why he stands with us. God bless you all. Thank you. Andy Barr.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Congressman Colonel Wenstrup. Thank you for your service, Congressman, and thank you for saving the life of our colleague, Steve Scalise, and I appreciate your friendship, Combat Infantryman Badge, Bronze Star, and the Soldier's Medal. And just to tell you what that Soldier's Medal requires of someone like Brad Wenstrup, it's awarded to any person of the Armed Forces of the United States who, while serving in any capacity with the Army of the United States, including reserve component soldiers not serving in a duty status at the time of a heroic act, distinguishes himself or herself by heroism not involving conflict with the enemy. Brad Wenstrup is a hero to us, engaged against the enemy, but also on that baseball field last year, and we really thank you. And thank you for your friendship. Thanks for Monica's friendship with Farrell. Thanks for coming in. And I want to thank Congressman and U.S. Air Force Reserve Chaplain Lieutenant Colonel Doug Collins, my friend. Didn't he do a good job emceeing tonight? Thanks for your leadership on the Judiciary Committee, defending our Second Amendment and fighting for border security. Thank you for your leadership as Vice Chairman of the House Republican Conference. Congressman Jeff Davis, my friend, thank you for helping to organize tonight's event, for your service to our country, for your unwavering support. I want to thank my campaign staff and my official staff for helping to organize tonight. I want to thank Tatum, Dale, and Jody Whitaker, Jonathan Van Norman, Haddon, James, the whole crew. And I do want to especially say thank you to my district staff, Leslie Small, our district director, Tatum Dale, our deputy district director, and especially to Anthony Allen, who leads our Veterans Coalition and does a terrific job, and Corporal Matthew Bradford. Thank you for your service, for your sacrifice, and for continuing your service to our fellow veterans here in the 6th Congressional District. And Matt, you say you look up to me, but I'm telling you, buddy, I look up to you, and everyone here looks up to you. Thank you so much for all that you stand for, all that you are, and the man that you are. And to Tyler White, my good friend Tyler White, who taught me what it means to be a warrior and to be a servant and a continued servant. And even though he worked for me, he taught me a lot about leadership. Tyler White is a born leader, and he learned it in combat. And I am a better leader because I learned to be a leader from Tyler White. Thank you very much, Tyler. And I want to thank all of our inspiring leaders, all of our speakers, and all of them for their service, for their sacrifice to our country, and for your patriotism. And as I listen to all these great speakers, and as I look out at my friends here, the veterans, the heroes of our country sitting and standing before me right now, my overwhelming emotion is one of gratitude, complete and unfettered, unmitigated gratitude. Gratitude for what every last one of you has done for our country. And as the grandson of 2 World War II veterans, a man named Garland Barr, who served in the Pacific on a Navy destroyer, and another man named James Bailey Falconer, a battlefield-promoted colonel in New Guinea and the Philippines who rose to the rank of Major General and commander of the 100th Division Army Reserves right here in Kentucky. I am humbled to be here with so many patriots and heroes to this great country, raised to respect and honor the men and women in uniform who serve our great nation. I am inspired daily by the dedication and commitment of all the veterans here tonight, and every veteran who has in the course of duty readily and without reservation placed the interests and the security of our country ahead of themselves. I am inspired by that dedication and that commitment and that sacrifice. They have committed themselves to their flag and to our freedoms above all. And it is through that inspiration that I resolved over 4.5 years ago, since taking office, to do everything in my position of authority in Congress to serve as well as I could those brave men and women who served our country the Constitution, and the freedoms that God has given every one of us. And as our founding father instructed, the willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by our nation. And that has been our North Star in our service to our veterans. And so from the outset of our service in Congress, we formed that 6th Congressional District Veterans Coalition. And we developed a unique and special bond with the veterans of Central and Eastern Kentucky and beyond. And I made it a priority, and our staff made it their priority, to resolve problems and address casework to honor veterans with initiatives like the Sowsley-Bowling legislation and Camp Nelson, and to work for our National Guard in the district, and Bluegrass Station and the Bluegrass Army Depot, and to address the invisible wounds of war with equine-assisted therapy and the Military Sexual Assault Victims Empowerment Act, and to pass legislation to give our troops a pay raise, to give our troops the training and the equipment and the readiness and the resources that they need to carry out their mission and return home safe to their families, and to give our veterans the care, the benefits, and the respect that they have earned. I am honored to work on their behalf. I am honored to work beside terrific public servants, some like Matt who served in uniform, some who did not serve in uniform, but are patriots still, and they are servants of our veterans. And we will continue to make our veterans and our active duty soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines our top priority in Congress. And just to be candid, it is the honor of a lifetime. It is the honor of a lifetime to work for you. This is not about elections. This is not about politics. It is about serving each of you so that you can serve your country and so that we can honor your service to our country. And as it has been stated enough already tonight, we've been able to deliver some results, but we have more work to do, because our veterans deserve it. Our veterans deserve it, and their families deserve it. And we are so gratified to hear their support for the policies we are implementing. Ronald Reagan once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction." We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for. It must be protected, and it must be handed on for them to do the same. This is our call. This is the call of all of us in this room, to be truly grateful for the sacrifices of those patriots who came before us, to those who answered the call, and to those who gave all. We must use that inspiration to fight for, protect, and secure the blessings of freedom for future generations, to support policies that will advance, not undermine, the cause for which you fought, the cause for which every one of you sacrificed. So while we respect everyone who has served their country in uniform, everyone, we recognize that part of respecting them is to not patronize them. And we will not patronize bad ideas. We will not do that. Because these ideas that you fought for, that this country was founded on, these ideas, not just biography, but ideas, the values and the policy preferences of those who we elect to lead this nation, they matter. Ideas matter. And our nation has been a light to the world, a beacon of liberty, and a hope for generations. This is our blessing. This is our blessing because of the service and sacrifice of you, because of the service and sacrifice of generations of patriots who came before you at Bunker Hill, at Gettysburg, at Belleau Wood, Normandy, Bulge, Iwo Jima, Chopin Reservoir, Pork Chop Hill, Quezon, Hamburger Hill, Kuwait, Fallujah, Ramadi, Helmand Province, and the Hindu Kush Mountains. Let us honor their sacrifice, and let's honor their sacrifice by continuing the work that we must do to secure that blessing of freedom. Together, we will do just that. God bless you. God bless our veterans, and God bless the United States of America.
While you're on your feet, I know everything in the military you got a mission. Andy's just laid out a vision. The question for you tonight is your mission. Will you take it up? I want to ask you, 6th District of Kentucky, are you willing to take a mission tonight? Yes. Here's the mission. You need to go out and find 5 people, and you need to get them to the polls. You need to take a sign tonight. You need to take a shirt tonight. Because when you go out, if you're silent, then they win. If bad ideas will prevail, if you do not confront them with good ideas. So here's my question. Do you want freedom? Yes. Elect Andy Barr. Do you want benefits of tax reform to continue? Then elect Andy Barr. Do you want strong borders? Elect Andy Barr. Do you want a strong military? Then elect Andy Barr. Take your mission, take it seriously, give your time, give your money, give your effort. 69 more days until you elect, again, Andy Barr to serve you as a veteran in Congress. God bless you. Have a great night.